So, what the heck are you doing here, Lanny? Well, it is really hard to breathe and my eyes are red. So I figured it was a great day to talk about volcanoes and the pollution they create and compare it to human pollution and the myths regarding them. But to do that, first we gotta build them. So while that sucker is outside squinting his eyes because he's got smoke in him, let's explore that myth about volcanoes that we're here to talk about. And the myth that people like to spew about volcanoes is that a single volcano releases more CO2 than all of humanity in the last 250 years. So therefore, contributes more to global warming. So actual climate scientists have calculated how much CO2 volcanoes put out every year and their average range of emissions. So some years, volcanoes aren't that active. In some years, we got Mt.St. Helens blowing up. So, some years it's going to be a bit more. So on a low end year, it's about 69 million tons. And on a high end year, it's about 319 million tons of CO2 per year. Whereas humans, we only put out 29 billion with a B tons in 2007. And that level has since increased to 40 billion tons with a B by 2015. So not only is the amount more, but the amount we increase each year, our output dwarfs that of every single volcano annually on the planet. So we can even take a look at our most recorded recent volcanic events, such as that 1980s eruption in Mount St. Helens. And Mount St. Helens vented approximately 10 million tons of CO2 into the atmosphere in approximately a 9-hour period. In 1991, just 11 years after that, Mount Pinatubo, I can't say it, on June 15th, 1991, it was the second largest volcanic eruption in 200 years, released around 50 million tons, and had a magnitude earthquake of about 7.8 when it blew its top off. So I don't know what this guy's idea of a cough is, but so let's put that into perspective, because that's just a lot of things I'm saying. The largest power plant in the United States is the Shear plant in Juliet, Georgia, and it emits 25.3 million tons of CO2 every year. So 2 years of operating that plant is equivalent to one of the largest eruptions in over 200 years. The state with the largest CO2 emissions from electricity generation, just generating electricity, is in Texas. 290 million tons of CO2 every year. So basically, the high end of our volcanoes, and that's just Texas. Now, volcanoes can affect the Earth's climate, but not typically by warming it. Particulates, aka particles, from major eruption end up getting way the heck up there into the stratosphere. Way up there. And these particles prevent the sun's energy from actually reaching the surface of the planet. This is much in the same way as when you have a massive forest fire. It's generally a lot cooler than if it would be a beautiful sunny day that day. Like the other day, I had to wear a hoodie and another hoodie just to stay warm. Most famously, the eruption in 1815 of Mount Tambora in Indonesia led to the year without a summer. That's the thing we're talking about here. Is volcanic eruptions tend to emit a lot more ash than they do gas. And typically, so even our Mt.St. Helens released 540 million tons of ash. And it was only something like 10 million tons of CO2. Yeah, in the spring and summer of 1815, a persistent dry fog was observed over all of the northeastern United States. And it was just kind of red and foggy, just like Alberta's been. And it darkened the sun to the point where you could see sunspots. On June 4th, 1816, frosts were reported in New Hampshire and northern New York. And on June 6th, snow fell in Albany and in New York and Dennisville. Such conditions occurred for about 3 months and ruined most agricultural crops that year in Canada and North America. Canada alone experienced a snow of about 12 inches on June 6th to the 10th, so about the time I'm posting this video. A Massachusetts historian summed up the disaster. Severe frosts occurred every month. June 7th and 8th snow fell, and it was so cold that crops were cut down, even freezing the roots. In the early autumn, when corn was in the milk, it was so thoroughly frozen that it never ripened and was scarcely worth harvesting. Breadstuffs were scarce and the prices high, and the poorer class of people were often in straits for want of food. Regional farmers did succeed in bringing some crops to maturity, but corn and other grain prices shot up dramatically. The price of oats, for example, rose from 12 cents a bushel, or about equivalent to about $1.64 in today's money, to 92 cents per bushel, or about $13.58 in today's money. This is more akin to what happened to the dinosaurs. It was after a dramatic period of volcanic activity that left most of the vegetation and ocean life dead from the acidification of it, that an asteroid was the final cherry on this ice cream sundae that cooled off the planet dramatically there. This was since the sun's rays couldn't penetrate all the Earth material that was pushed up from both the asteroid and all these volcanoes that were going off at the time. And they also think it was because of the splitting of the continents released a bunch of methane, and just a bad time to be alive. And what we're seeing now is added gas, but without that added material. So this instead results in us getting warmer as the sun is trapping heat in our oceans at a faster rate, while the gas causes it to also become more acidic. In the same way that when you leave your glass of water out overnight, gets kind of bubbly and it doesn't taste so good the next day. It's the same thing, but on a global scale. If this myth is so obviously, provably false, where the heck did it originate from? And the internet, as I've said many times, is kind of one of those amazing places where if you look, you can pretty much almost find the origin of anything sometimes. And this time it was actually really easy. And it can be traced back to an opinion article titled Legislated Time Bomb by Ian Plowler. I'm not going to say his name. I'm not going to justify it. That was uploaded to ABC News September 28th, 2010. And this guy was born in the 40s and is an Australian geologist. He is a global warming denier who also denies any health risks from crystalline asbestos, along with denying that it is a form of asbestos at all, and also that the sun has a composition resembling that of a meteorite, a stony, rocky meteorite. They're the same thing. In his article, he goes on to make assertions like, The fear-mongering suggestion that oceans will become acidic is also misleading. The oceans are buffered by sediments and volcanic rocks on the floor, and even in past times when atmospheric temperature and CO2 were far higher than at present, there were no acid oceans. If there had been, there would be no fossils with calcium carbonate shells. Boom. Stupid scientists, you don't know shit. This is something he says, so when there are clear examples of this phenomenon happening in the fossil record, during the Permian extinction event about 251 million years ago, when the Earth lost 96% of its species due to the oceans acidifying once again, wiping out all of the corals, the trilobites, the cephalopods, and mostly all in the deeper waters, where there's a higher abundance of CO2 due to the heaviness of that. And it wouldn't mean that there isn't any fossils. It would just mean that they'd be far more rare, which they are from this time period. And coupled with that, scientists recently have proven that when CO2 levels were pre-industrial, shellfish would have had thicker, healthier shells, along with they would have been more abundant just due to the fact that their infant birth rates wouldn't have been so low. The shellfish already do have high infant birth rates, but when your shells and your organs aren't working, kind of makes life just that little bit harder to make it. And coupled with this, back then when the polar ice caps had melted during this period, the process of warm water, called convection, was weakened, which resulted in a greater stagnation of water. So normally what happens is from the polar ice caps, water flows up and down slowly in ways, it's going all around. But when when everything's at equilibrium, there's nowhere for the water to go. So it all just stays and slowly just stays in one spot. It's when there is that temperature difference that it wants to move. So that led to even greater stagnation, just like when you have a pond that doesn't have any running water at all. Everything just dies, and you can't have any fish. Another claim he made on his opinion piece was, although industrial aerosols are decreasing, the climate catastrophists omit to state that volcanic aerosols kill. They kill you. Nobody's also omitting the fact that volcanic aerosols kill. It's just there isn't really any need to bring them up because we're talking about man-made stuff.
That's a pyroclastic cloud.
Which is like 100 times more prominent in our atmosphere. And, anytime somebody makes an argument like this, they're just kind of grasping at something. It's like, cars kill people? Well, horses kill people too. It's like, that's great, but we're talking about automobile accidents. If you were to ask any climate catastrophists, they'd plainly tell you volcanic aerosols do kill very quickly. That's basically the number one cause of volcanic eruption is the actual gases from it, the aerosols, and the particulates. So it's not the lava. Just kind of a weird video. Let's watch a goofy guy play with CO2 now.
So I got this volcano eruption kit from Discovery, and I got it at Dollarama for $4, ages 8 and up. Comes with everything you need to make a volcano. So we got experience the inner workings of Earth as you create your own volcano. Decorate the volcano by using the sand, then follow the easy setup instructions and watch it erupt. New Troy's here to help. It's okay, we don't have the citric acid part out yet. So the first thing we have to do is get the cattail out of the way. Is mix our sand mix. I acquired another cat now. Basically what you want to do is take 2 fluid ounces of water, aka a quarter of a cup of water. I guess you're supposed to add the baking soda to this, because now it looks a lot better. I never would have guessed that, but I guess that's what they want. Yeah, I remember coming across this article years ago, probably when it came out. It was making the rounds, and I just shrugged it off, thinking that's stupid. But you know, just because you know something doesn't mean everybody knows something. So I hope this helped clarify things like one volcano making a burp on this planet is nothing compared to 7 billion people all consuming, all creating, all wasting every day. Like, that's one thing people really don't get is exponential growth. How 7 billion is different than 1. In your head right now, you can't picture 7 billion. You can picture 1. So rationally, 1 volcano maybe could do that. But if you picture 1 volcano and then you actually picture the Earth, you can't even, because you can't scale it. Not in your head like that. You just can't. So you gotta actually listen to the experts and not some people writing opinion articles that aren't backed up or substantiated by any actual experts in the field of climatology. Well, if you follow my channel for a while, you know I thought that was lame, so we went ahead and grabbed the Arm & Hammer and some real vinegar.
What do we need this for?
They just come in handy.
That is a pyroclastic cloud. The climate alarmists omit to kill.
Mom, it's coming!
Oh my God. Don't look back. It's going Don't look back! Oh, sweet Jesus.
Oh my god.
So get ready. It includes everything. 1 volcano base drape. 1 bottle of citric acid. 1 bag of sand. 1 bag of baking soda. 1 plastic tube. And an instruction manual. A Massachusetts. God damn it. Massachusetts. A Massachusetts historian summed up the disaster